Okay, we're recording, we're streaming.
Red alert, it's a catastrophe. Don't worry, I'm fingering your dad.
Fingering my dad.
Fingering your dad near a bypass.
Under the bypass.
Fingering your dad on a roundabout.
On a roundabout. I love that. Then it's like sort of on full display. It's real like exhibitionism. You know?
Yeah.
All the people driving around, trying to get home on a Friday night. And you pull up at the traffic lights at a roundabout, and there on the roundabout, fingering my dad. Oh fuck! Right, okay. we're actually streaming now. Good evening to Silence, Peter, and anyone else that's just jumping on the YouTube live stream. Ladies and gents, welcome to episode 192 of Thompsin and Other Disappointments, your twice-weekly cannonball dive bomb into the swimming pool of politics, news, dystopia, and all things shit. I am your host, Thompsin. If you're feeling a bit too upbeat, a bit too optimistic about the state of the world, state of the country, I am here to level out that chemical imbalance with my joy that I spread unto the world. Joining me tonight, quite excited. I said to my producer earlier in the week, I said, can we get someone political? Can we get someone who's across their brief, compassionate, an all-round good egg? And look, guys, I don't know what to tell you, but unfortunately, at the last minute, George Osborne had to pull out. Really disappointing stuff.
If only he had pulled out.
But thankfully, our good friend, activist, and satirical warrior, Supertanskiii, has agreed to step in. Woo! Supertanskiii.
Hello. I love the way you kind of create a vibe there. You're like, wow!
Well, do you know, it's a hark back to the old stand-up days. Like, you welcome someone on stage, and you sort of say their name, and then like, woo, clap for them.
Up.
Yeah, you try to sort of amp them up a bit, get the crowd G'd up.
Give them a bit of,
bit of oomph. How are you? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been all right. It's been ups and downs. But yeah, I've been okay. It's bloody hot today, though.
Isn't it? Like I was
sweating like George Osborne on his wedding day.
Yeah.
Good luck tomorrow, George. You're going to fucking need it, mate.
All the best, bud. All the best. I was about to say many happy returns. That's something you say on a birthday, isn't it?
He's not going to have many happy returns, I don't think,
Probably not.
What can we say about this without getting sued?
Right, I'm not going to talk about George Osborne. I'm going to tell you about a different person entirely, altogether. A friend of mine called John.
John Jones.
Did that even sound half convincing? Probably not. John.
I thought you were going to say like
John is a real person. And John Johnson was due to be married also just by coincidence, and it transpired that John had perhaps not been entirely faithful to his fiancée and his previous wife, and some of the sexual partners involved may or may not have been allegedly suggested it may have been somewhere in some conversation, but also
involved.
Yeah, but also challenged. Maybe it was challenged a bit by someone.
Yes.
It may have been playfully suggested that some of these sexual partners may have been below the age of 18. So that's John. But just coming back to George Osborne, I think he's due to get married, isn't he?
Yeah, tomorrow. Wedding bells in the morning. And I think his entire congregation have got a very interesting bit of reading prior. Again, I'm just like you're like really like the most thin-veiled cover-up in the world there, and I'm just like, so everyone got sent an email and he's fucked. But
I don't understand cover-up. I'm just telling you about my friend John.
Cover-up, but no, he's I mean, you wouldn't think it from old Gid, would you? Old Gideon. You know?
He's always seemed so nice.
Yeah, affable.
Absolutely. And to see
him and Ed Balls are starting a podcast, right?
I know.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw it earlier in the week.
Did you see the whole, like, everyone doing the whole, firstly, are you okay?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the fucking Ed Balls is going to have to holly it. I don't think just writing his own name like a Pokemon online is going to cover up for this absolute shit show. It
No,
really isn't.
no. And it's like I was half kind of looking forward to listening to that podcast because it feels very much in the same vein as Rest is Politics. And I quite like the idea of people from across the political divide actually sitting down and having a reasonable conversation with one another and finding some common ground. Or what is it they say? Disagreeing agreeably.
Yeah, it's okay for people that are like super rich and unaffected to do that, though, isn't it? Like ex-MPs that have still got like loads of bank. But I think it's a bit harder for that to happen amongst the people that are kind of bearing the real consequences of it. Like, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
It shows that people can play nice, but I just think it's a bit easier for the type of men that have been doing it to play nice because they're fine. I mean, aren't they? Let's face it. They're okay.
It's easier to at least feign civility when your children aren't fucking starving and there's no threat of you losing your family home or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm coming from. Yeah. But at the same time, it would have kind of been interesting. But then I think them two, they were on Andrew Neil together, weren't they? And that's probably where they got the idea because they were both kind of Andrew Neil's frequent kind of two guests that he would turn to, and they would always massively disagree. So I'm just annoyed that Ed would do it with him, really, because I've got a bit of a soft spot for Ed Balls. Your dad's balls. Yeah. So
yeah, I know what you mean. Like it's sort of. I sometimes think when they're in like post-parliamentary mode, there's a tendency to, to see them as more likable, to give them a bit of a pass. And I think that's especially true of George Osborne, even though he's seen as the architect or like the face of austerity, rightly so. Yeah. And that's got that huge fucking death toll around it. So he's sort of seen as this bringer of death. But still, like, even if it's possible to rehabilitate someone after that sort of horrible political career, he's at least sort of made inroads there where it's like, he was editor of the Evening Standard and he's done... What the fuck else has he done?
This is what they do. I mean, he was like a banker, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So I said this the other day in my video, like they get to, these kind of privileged people, they get to play at being a certain thing, play at being a banker, play at being a journalist, play at being an MP. The problem is with playing at being a journalist and playing at being an MP is you've got, it's a trusted information source.
Yeah.
And with the country, if you fuck that up, people die, and they just feel like they're born to rule over us or inform us or do what, they just feel like they're entitled to have those positions. And if they weren't kind of privileged and this was just some guy that was like a reality TV star, he would be condemned. But because it's a lad who went to a posh school, it's not seen as detestable, this kind of behaviour, when it is it's worse than EastEnders.
Well, I think it's easier for them to rehabilitate because somebody like George Osborne has been through the mill dealing with newspaper editors, political editors, and has edited the Evening Standard. Like, I'm sure his contact book spreads far and wide. So even after let's say hypothetically, a negative story came out about him, it would be possible for him to present himself back to popular culture in a way that I'm not saying I could ever be in a position where I would forgive him for the policies that he rolled out. But I think a lot of people who are not quite the news junkies that maybe some of us are, I think if they were just exposed to sort of this positive news story and that sort of like payback gushy article, like if you get enough pro Osborne articles in the Mail, the Express, if he plays into this idea that he's a bit of a Lothario, however disgusting that might be, like with whatever details may or may not come out at some point.
They get away with it though.
Yeah.
This is the problem. I mean, this is, they have it's just like Johnson and his stranglehold on the press. The contacts that he has, the weight that he has, the sway that he has to cover up a story here. There must be lots of people. I don't know how they or why they owe him favors or why they're still backing him.
Did you see or hear about the interview that Johnson did on that geopolitics podcast that I can't remember the name of this week?
No.
He came out of hiding and did this. I say came out of hiding. I mean, he's obviously still everywhere doing Twitter stuff in his mail column or whatever. But he agreed to be interviewed on this one podcast. I've probably got the name of it here. Hold on. And the idea was, the reason that they got the interview with him was because they said it's a geopolitics show. And we will ask you about Ukraine, and obviously he loves talking about that because it makes him look great. We will ask you about our changing relationship with the US and blah, blah, blah. And then as the clock ran out, they had 30 minutes with him or thereabouts. And as the clock was just running out in the last 5 minutes, the lady of the man and lady team starts grilling him about, like, would you have done anything differently in your parliamentary term? Do you regret not taking advice from people who told you, who warned you, like, not to try and get Chris Pincher off or not to try to disband the standards?
Wow.
And she really grilled. And his reaction to that, his conduct in that interview is really fucking revealing. It's like,
did he turn?
Yeah, like he I mean, he didn't, like, he wasn't angry and vitriolic, but it
was a measured turn though, wasn't it?
Where he snored at her. He did like a snoring. He was like, oh, come on. Like he was, trying to show her that she was bored. He kept looking at the male presenter. She's asking him questions, grilling him. He keeps looking over at the guy as though, like, oh, come on. Like, can you put her back in her butt? Like, it was really fucking revealing.
Yeah, of course. This is the real Johnson. This is the real Johnson. The only thing I need to catch up on that, but I try to avoid him because I'm just trying to treat him as an irrelevance now. But the last thing I saw of him, which I was going to tweet, like just the first expletives that came into my head, was just him ranting like a twat in the back of a black cab about fucking ULEZ.
Yeah.
That's the last thing that I saw. And I just thought, what a fucking prick. Like, I just didn't have any emotion left to expend on that arsehole. Like, I've just had it with him. He just keeps popping up. And the only reason he pops up and tries to stay relevant is just, again, for self-gain. It's whatever he can get out of it, whatever money he can, like, swindle out of it.
It just amazes me that anyone sort of uses his input as any kind of currency, because when he's in the back of a cab recording a video railing against ULEZ, you sit there and you think, well, hang on a second, like this is a fucking measure that's being put in for, like, as a modest implementation to fight against the climate crisis. That's what that is there for.
And pollution.
You pretend to be this sort of, green, progressive, metropolitan conservative when it fucking suits. But
when it fucking suits you, yeah.
That's the one thing that he kind of sticks to, is like, he is supposedly an environmentalist. But even when it comes to the ULEZ shit, it's like, oh, well, I can put that shit on hold because this is what's advantageous for me in this particular moment at this time,
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly it. It's the same with Brexit, wasn't it? Let's face it. It was exactly. Is that loud? Can you hear that noise in the background that's here? Just to double check. I know we're going live, but
I can hear something slightly annoying. Wait, hold on.
Yes.
Oh, there it is again.
Oh, fuck it. My landlord's back from Egypt and he's playing his violin.
Oh, lovely. Cultural.
So sounds like I'm talking in code, doesn't it?
Fuck all the low budget, like, broadcast from your shed stuff. This week, guys, we got a sound bed. We've got, like, music underneath us.
Yeah, I did let him know that I would still be going, but
Yeah, I feel like I can't hear it. It's not a distraction. It's fine. Okay. I feel like sort of, okay, so the Boris Johnson anti-ULEZ stuff is here. I feel like the George Osborne story that may not even kind of be a story. I mean, we'll see what that turns into. That's over here. Also, some other big shit happened this week, though. So 2 big court cases for the Tories both just imploded for them. The first one was Suella Braverman's look, my dream is I want to take people off to the most desperate people that arrive in our country on our shores. I just want to ship them off to Rwanda. That's my fucking dream. That goes up to the High Court, gets fucking thrown out. So that was great. My response to that on Twitter was like, and then the next day, I think it was, Rishi Sunak lost his challenge to, like, he didn't want to hand over his WhatsApp messages, or he didn't want his WhatsApp messages revealed as part of the COVID inquiry. And then he lost out, which yielded a very similar response of, So it's been a good week.
Yeah, I mean, they knew it wouldn't go through. They knew
No.
that it was always. They knew that it was illegal. They knew that it was unworkable. They knew that it was fucking immoral. They were just doing it in a desperate attempt to, rouge their cheeks for National Front voters. They were just trying to scoop up and prey on those voters who will vote for anything that justifies their bigotry. It wasn't ever going to come to fruition. And it's not just that. The thing that people should be really angry about, beyond the fact that it's really immoral and what they're planning to do to kids is really immoral. Yeah, they should just take a look at how much it's costing them to fuck up this badly. The amount that they're spending on hotels because they won't process the backlog, the amount that it's costing or would cost per refugee to even send them there.
This is the thing that baffles me, man. It's like it makes no emotional or moral sense. It makes no financial sense. It makes no sense in terms of like our labor shortage. I know that sounds kind of callous, like bring in these desperate people and just get them working in this, but we do have a labor shortage, so any way of bolstering immigration would be a plus for us. It makes no sense on any fucking metric that you look at it across. But you're right, it's like we're going for the National Front voter, we're going for the Brexit on steroids British Legion voter. But here's a weird question for you. If we know that by and large Britain actually holds pretty progressive attitudes, we know that that kind of voter and those sensibilities are hugely in the minority. Why the fuck are they still going after that voter when every year more and more, because they tend to be older, more and more of them die, so it's a smaller and smaller, like not even a majority. Like, why are they still going after that? That is a voter or an electorate that doesn't really exist,
It's hard to tell, isn't it? I mean, maybe they're inheriting a little bit of what's going on in America, and they've seen that kind of culture war-y, kind of red meaty, immigrants are an invasion-y rhetoric has kind of persevered and continued. But the thing is, we're not America, and we're not Americans, and that isn't how the vast majority of British people, as you say, think. I don't know. I just think they've just gone too far down a path now, where they just can't turn back. And Sunak is just impossibly weak as a leader. He's not whipping into shape any of them. He's just letting. I described it as him losing control of the cunt farm. He's completely lost control of the cunt. They are just running amok. You've got fucking Lee Anderson go moo, like legging it over there. Like he just will not take any affirmative action.
Yeah.
He's flimsy and he hides away from PMQs, even though when he is there, he's like sneery and passive aggressive and just dripping with privilege. You can just see it dripping off him. But he's not doing himself any favors by standing away. But he's just lost it. He's lost control. So they're just running amok now, and they're forming their own splinter groups. It's gone Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Or as Burble sing, Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah. She was a big name, obviously, in the news this week also. So this is the country's strictest, or the country's harshest headmistress or whatever.
Densest headmistress.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I don't take anything, like maybe it's possible to be a great head teacher and have the like pragmatism skills, strategic know-how to run a good school and get good results. Maybe that's possible to have concurrently as to be actually politically kind of stupid, like maybe they're not. She
doesn't have to be so public about it though, does she? About her like political leanings and also like she's built a big platform now. You've got a weight of responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, people will come for you. I'm at the point on Twitter where I've lost all fucks. I've been so trolled to an inch of my life and so horrifically smeared on there that now I have no fear or concern. I'm just fucking free. I'm raw dogging Twitter. I don't care. But she has a reputation to uphold, and or should have one. And when you're finding yourself in, being featured on GB News, you have picked a team.
Yeah.
You're regularly appearing or agreeing with thick, dangerous right-wing pundits. then you got to take your backlash, love. But
Yeah.
she did that thing where she mixed up Lord of the Flies and Lord of the Rings was objectively hilarious.
Yeah, clearly not an English teacher. Maybe she rose up the ranks with like, I don't know what she was teaching before she became head teacher, but
I don't know what her game is, but yeah, she did get quite a lot of backlash for sharing a picture which was like really bad.
I immediately feel terrible. Like, I hope I didn't put too much emphasis on like English teacher. Like, she's not an English, I don't mean any racial like undertones to that.
Legends, man. I don't think I ever had an English teacher that I didn't fancy. They were
Really?
quite hot English teachers normally. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I fancy my English teacher? I did a bit, yeah. Can't remember her name now, actually.
I had a weird thing for history teachers, man. I don't know what it is. I think it's the sapiosexual in me, It's like, teach
I think it's
me.
like, if you have a certain kind of brain, if you're like analytical, if you like language, then English teachers and history teachers are incredibly engaging.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I don't have a mathematical or like a sort of, I'm not really into physics or RE.
RE?
Yeah.
Physics, RE. RE doesn't have a lot of maths in it, eh?
No, I'm just saying like, these are subjects I wasn't really into, but then like with the subject, you just lose that engagement, and maybe there's something in that with like fancying the teachers or something. I don't know.
Oh no, for me it's purely that it's the intelligence thing, I think. The knowledge. And the knowledge.
Do you think teachers do they judge each other? Like does the history and English teachers, do they think the PE teachers are a bit thick, do you reckon?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you've got the playground social hierarchy. And then like if you sort of scale it up to the teachers as well.
But I think what the PE teachers, what they,
bully the RE teacher.
Everyone wants to shag the PE teacher, don't they? So I think they make up for it in their shagability, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to teach you. You're asking me.
Yeah. I don't know how we got onto that.
What do you think about that, sister? Anyway, how have we wandered into this mad tangent?
No idea. What else has happened this week? So we've had the two court cases, Rishi and Suella, the two Sues. And what else? Thames Water almost went bankrupt. I'm not really sure what's happened with that. That seems to have gone very quiet.
Yeah.
But essentially the nuts and bolts of it are, as you would always expect with a sort of monopoly privatization story, it used to be a public utility. A government, I don't know if it was New Labour or the Tories.
The Tories.
Was it? Shocker. Then privatised it, presumably sold it off to their mates.
Selling off water. A utility makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Then over the course of like 15, 20 years, these now privatised public utilities that people are forced to use, there's no competition, so it is a monopoly. So much like a train line, your First Great Western or your Virgin Rail or whatever, they have people over a barrel. And so they continue to raise bills, and they take out huge loans, and they pay their shareholders in dividends. And then gradually these companies accumulate so much debt that they envelope. And then guess what? Like, we as the public then have to step in and bail them out. So it's like we've paid to build the fucking company, made nothing when it was sold off. Now we have to pay to fucking save the thing, and we still don't get to own it because the shareholders will all get paid off. So yeah, so that's
this is lovely. This is how it works. And if you think the rail companies or any other privatized industry is different, think again. The difference is with the others, you don't end up getting shit in your rivers and your seas to the point where like we're literally just an island surrounded by pure shit now, our own shit, because they price in the cost of the fines if they even get the fines, which are not unlimited. They're capped. Unlike the fines that you can get for protesting now, which are uncapped.
Wow.
So yeah, so you could in theory have to pay more for protesting than a water company.
What if my protest was pouring shit into
I know what you're going to say.
Boris Johnson's moat?
Right. Yeah, that's your dream, your obsession, and your sexual kink, isn't it?
It is now, yeah, for the last year or so.
I would say fucking do it, but then I would anyway, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that is just
it's nuts, isn't it? Like
yeah.
It tells you everything that you need to know about the prioritization and the protection that Conservative government put in place. So you have millionaires, billionaires in control of this public utility who can behave in any way that they really want. They can dump shit in your river, in your local lake, out in the sea, make it unsafe for your kids to swim in the same harbour that you used to go swimming in. That's all fine. Maybe like 20 grand fine, 30 grand fine. But you go out and exercise your democratic right to protest, and it's, yeah, as you say, unlimited. Like, how much is your house worth? 300 grand? We're going to make this 301 grand just so you're fucked. That's who we are. That's what we do.
Yeah,
It's nutty. Did you see the thing this week about the supermarkets who, like, the price of petrol came down. They didn't lower the prices of it and made tens of millions of pounds of profit out of people who think that the supermarkets are the cheapest, right?
Yep.
Do you know what the fine was for it?
No.
£30,000.
Fuck me with a broom. What the fuck?
I know. It's like if you didn't laugh, you'd cry, right?
Why? I just get so angry that people take it. That's the thing that pisses me off. It's like, oh, you're inciting riots. Yeah, you fuck. Well, if only I could incite a riot, I would, because they deserve. You know, they just deserve to be burnt down at this point. Like, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
But I've just had it. Like, how are people not more angry about this, or just how are they just taking it and then lapping up all the bullshit that they. Oh, it's because they control the information source, isn't it? Like they've got the newspapers, they've got the news. They say what's printed, reported.
There's a lot of that. They hold a very tight grip around the information flow. Right wing press dominates. Yeah, like the newsstands and so on. But I don't think it's as dominant as it was like 10 years ago even. Like, obviously whenever we talk about newspaper headlines on Twitter or whatever, people are like, well, who even buys newspapers anymore? But although there's some pushback to that in the like along the lines of that breakfast shows take their cues from the newspapers, so there is still that influence there. But I also think the influence is beginning to peter out a little bit, and I think the polling at the moment is kind of evidence of that. It's like all of the right-wing papers and all of the shows that take their cues from the right-wing papers are still hammering Labour over being funded by the same guy who funds Just Stop Oil. They call
Although that's not technically true.
No, I know, but this is my point. It's like they can funnel out these misinformation little talking points and hot takes, but it hasn't actually moved the dial. Like, it's not changing anything, which tells me or suggests that these guys don't have as much of a grip on it maybe as they used to. I don't know.
I just think a lot of people woken up post Johnson. Yeah. Oh, that was a really horrible phrase, wasn't it? It's like a lot of people woken up post Johnson. Like,
can you imagine?
Oh God. A lot of people have though. Yeah.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Many women have woken up post Johnson.
I don't understand how he does it. Honestly, it's like, I
don't get it either. I don't like. Have we? I don't know if we talked about this before about whether it's like a prestige or like power thing or.
Oh, it's probably like a charm thing. Like a lot of women are suckers for a charmer. I know. Like I could be easily won over by a charmer sometimes.
Yeah. Or a comedian. Or.
Shut up.
Yeah. Right, let's move on. What was the other shit that happened this week? Right, so there's two other stories I wanted to get your thoughts on. There's a big launch earlier this week, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, for this new variant, we'll call them, of Tories. And they're calling themselves, they're branded themselves, the New Conservatives. Not like those stuffy old ones, guys. I mean, they harbour a lot of the same attitudes and sensibilities, but no, these are new Conservatives, new and improved.
Why are they trying?
I know.
Honestly,
if you were rebranding from like the Tories, the stuffy, plummy, Etonian, silver spoon cunt, private school Tories, if you were rebranding from that, would you include in your corporate rebrand Jonathan Gullis?
Honestly, that guy, he even looks thick.
Yes.
I mean, this is the thing. He looks as thick as he is, and the problem, like I spoke about this in my video about these guys. They're not like the Johnsons or the Rees-Moggs. They're low level. They were a skull for Johnson to tread on to get to where he wanted to go and get his ball over the line.
Yeah.
They won in a year when a barely sentient fucking goldfish with a blue rosette would have won because of Brexit. And then they came from pretty low level, you know, in society, in terms of pay, jobs like teacher, you know, blue collar jobs.
I believe Gullis was an RE teacher. Let's just
I can't believe these people will let their children, right? And then they kind of like now they think they're like the tits because they're MPs. They're going to get turfed out again, and they're either trying to appeal to like the GB News Talk TV sect with just outrageous nonsense in a hope that they'll get like a, you know, Talk TV show or something like that. But they're not going to be like Johnson is now. And I think that what they're failing to realise is the longer that they support or stand by their association with him, the more they are shitting in their own hands. But still they go. And I'm watching it like with great fast, especially Brendan Clark-Smith. Hi, Brendan.
Yeah, forgotten about that guy.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a bit of news, wasn't it? And yeah, like Gullis, Brendan Clark-Smith tried to hit back at me over that whole Samaritans thing by posting pictures of some of my finest work against Gullis. I called him like I said he had the energy of a small town gack dealer. And I was like, I that's still up. I tweeted that. Do you think that that's not my thoughts on Jonathan Gullis?
Yeah.
You're showcasing what I think. But these people, they're just desperately clutching at any straw they can.
It's kind of tragic, isn't it? Because it's like, I agree with what you were alluding to a minute ago. I think they've surfed in on this Brexit wave, and I think they've mistaken their, I don't know, grace and favour or whatever it is that they're like, all the benefits, the trimmings that come with that sometimes ministerial role, other times just still backbenchers, but that Westminster presence, that sort of being asked questions for TV, contributing to GB, all of that stuff. I think they've misinterpreted that as, oh, this is my life now. People see me as a Tory who's worth listening to and all that shit. And I think you're right. I think once it gets to the 2024 election and these people are turfed out, I think they're going to find out really brutally how not valued they are at all. Like they're kind of big-mouthed, new conservative GB News types who are okay to go and get a vox pop from or a little hot take. But ultimately, once they're out, it's like, yeah, okay, bye. Well, don't you want me to work for your think tank or your lobbying firm? No. I checked with the boss. He said, go fuck yourself. Like it's going to be that brutal.
It will. It'll be like, oh, what school did you go to? Oh, that comprehensive. Oh, right, no.
Yeah.
And then they'll get some Oxbridge twat because that's how it fucking works. So they're going to find themselves probably going from earning the most they've ever earned in their life to being at the bottom of the fucking scrap heap. And as I said, I'm going to laugh my tits off because it's no better than they deserve. I mean, they've been right front and centre when it comes to supporting the most hideous policies that this government have implemented or tried to implement. So any, residual sympathy is gone. So I'm going to make it my personal mission with a few of them. And now the Mercers are on that list of, targeting their constituency and working with their opposition. So,
yeah.
The Mercer going mental was another thing this week.
Let's talk about this, shall we? So I normally do give people a little bit of context, but perhaps you can paint the picture for us this time. So what happened?
Felicity Cornelius Minge, which is Johnny Mercer's wife, decided to write like a hit piece against Carol Vorderman in, I think it was the Tory Graph, I'm certain it was, saying that she was an attack dog that encourages people to hate the Tories, right? So I get a little notif from the Vorders, and I'm like, what the fuck? And, just dive in because, you come for Carol, you come for all of us. Like, it's personal. Carol's you do not touch a hair on her head. She's lovely. So I just kind of got involved. And then Johnny fucking Mercer and his wife were like wish versions of Christine and Neil Hamilton, like just desperate, weird, like really public fighting with the public and Carol Vorderman, like on Twitter, like just airing every bit of dirty laundry in public. Yeah, and it's not just offensive and jealous, I think, on the part of Felicity, but also demonstrably inaccurate. Like, the polls have been against the Tories for ages before Vordy even got on board, or was like, you know, really coming for it. I think the thing that, like, everyone's got their little thing that kind of radicalized them in a good way against the government. I think for people like Hugh Grant, it was phone hacking. For I think Vordy, it's the corruption of it. She's noted the corruption of it. She's got a huge platform. I think it's very similar for Gary Lineker too. With Gary, I think it was a lot to do with the, from what I can see from their output, the treatment of refugees and the treatment of the vulnerable, and the corruption of the PPE and etc. So yeah, so she was basically accusing Carol of single-handedly causing people to hate Tories when the Tories do a really good job of that themselves. So it's bollocks.
It's such an obvious sort of attempt at obfuscating or misrepresenting, because it's like, here you have Carol Vorderman, who, like, I've never spoken to her. I don't need to defend her, but it seems like objectively what she's doing is highlighting corruption. It started with the Michelle Mone story. That's when Carol Vorderman first entered my sort of political periphery in terms of like speaking up and so on. Incidentally, if you want to buy a Get Money t-shirt, they're right here, guys. But yeah, so she started speaking up, exposing that, asking questions, appearing on daytime TV, raising awareness, I guess, for want of a better phrase. And for that, the thanks for that she gets is being told that she's inciting hatred or inciting, was it hatred or violence? I can't remember.
It was, no, she referred to her as an attack dog that is inciting hatred towards Tories. Right?
And it's like, well, if
all letter rants and shit, like, proper.
But like, if all she's doing is saying what the Tories are doing, well, the Tories have an opportunity there, don't they? They can either clarify exactly what it is that's happening, they can dismiss whatever claim it is that people are making with evidence, facts, times, dates, faces, receipts, or they can fucking keep banging on about small boats and sending people off to Rwanda and ignore it and hope it goes away, and then it doesn't go away, and then we continue. Like, so it's, I don't know what my point is here. Really, is it's like, it's
no, I get where you're coming from. They can contest it if they think it's wrong. They can contest it properly. But the thing is, they're doing it. It's like, it's proper stand by your man vibes that I'm getting for some reason from her. I mean, she's been mouthy before about when little Johnny wasn't made a minister under the lettuce's reign, you know.
Yeah.
And she was like putting out 4-letter rants about it. Look, I don't judge on the swear front, but you'd have thought that a minister's wife probably wouldn't behave like that on Twitter. But, you know, if she wants to swear, she can. It just would be helpful if she was swearing and not talking absolute bollocks, frankly. And then her husband went on Question Time last night, was behaving very erratically, especially at the beginning of it. I don't know why. Just talking a load of absolute nonsense. It reminded me of the time that my mate brought an estate agent to the party, that we were having like an after party, and they brought their colleague that was like an estate agent, and he was just trying to talk about fucking graphs and figures and like nonsense, except it was worse, and he's supposed to be a minister, and he was talking over all the women on the panel, just consistently talking over them, deciding what the discussion points were, being really arrogant. He had an absolute mare. And then a thing came out in the Express that apparently he was ranting constantly about Carol Vorderman in the green room, angrily, before Question Time. And then he went on and he was like, oh, I've got a bit of flack online this week. Doesn't really bother me, though. Doesn't bother me. Don't cry about it. Doesn't bother me. But yeah, he's just, so they're like, people like Mercer, I think he was one of the guys that people always thought was one of the more moderate, or...
I did. Yeah, this is what I was going to say in a minute, but you finish first.
No, but you're right. Like, this is that's exactly what I was leading to, because a lot of people thought that. And what's the other one? Elwood.
Tobias Elwood, and there's a third one as well. They're all like ex-army guys, and they have all spoken out.
Benjamin Wallace, but not Benjamin. Like, Benjamin Wallace was like, they was useless over the.
I can't remember the guy's name. Like, so Tobias Elwood he sat on the select committee, and then the other guy went for the leadership last time. I can't remember his fucking name now. But Tobias Ellwood and this other guy they're like pro single market, let's reestablish our links. That to me makes sense. They were very critical of the Boris Johnson administration. That made sense. Mercer described the Johnson administration, or that time in the Conservative Party, as like, he went on record and said this to a journalist. He was like, it's like being on the shittest football team or something like that. He said like,
under him though, didn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah.
We won't ever change that from the inside, like, ever.
Yeah. I mean, there's a case to be made, or there's a conversation to be had about, and perhaps I'm a little bit too understanding of this, but like, when people go into politics to affect change, to improve things in their local constituency, I think once they get swallowed up into whatever party it is that they represent, I think they're just a fucking slave to the system. And no matter what their intentions are or were, I think at that point, the fate is sealed. Like, Johnny Mercer can disagree all he likes with like Boris Johnson, or Tobias Ellwood, or whoever else can disagree with whoever's in number 10. But ultimately, it's number 10 or CCHQ that are signing the checks for their campaign next time, or deciding if they get deselected and are unemployed or not. So they're all over a fucking barrel.
To some extent, yeah. But then there's also the kind of like the moral aspect of it. I get that side of it. But Johnny Mercer, the things that he was saying was kind of the things that because there was that comment that he claimed was misconstrued about food banks, about it being a personal choice for people to run food banks. Yeah. And then he tried to make the claim that he's always stood up for veterans and stood up for, oh, really, mate? Your voting record shows that you consistently voted against helping people that are on like low incomes receive more support. It shows there. And you can say, oh, I was whipped to do it. You still fucking did it. Didn't take a stand, did you? So he's just, I just think that, in terms of his, morals not aligning with the nonsense that comes out of his mouth, that he's just another bullshitter, frankly. Tobias Ellwood, I don't know anymore. I mean, I agreed with his comments on the EU, obviously, as a Remainer, but why have you left it until now? And another one, Robert Jenrick, right? He's spoken out about Brexit a few times too, and the administration itself still decided that it would be a great idea to take down welcome murals for immigrant children in play centres, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you are scum. Just stop pretending that you're anything other than, massively benefiting from this system that you're a part of. You can't sit there and claim that you're sticking up for people and perpetuate this nonsense. It's just demonstrably disingenuous, and it's an insult to our intelligence. And no one was fucking buying it in that Question Time audience. No one was. And it's always majority Tory, because it was like a Tory landslide last time, apparently. That's how they justify doing it. But the people that got the biggest claps were actually Dale Vince, the environmentalist, and Bridget Phillipson.
Yeah.
Then they had that creepy woman, I can't remember what her name is now, who did some kind of weird performance about how the NHS doesn't have to be free at the point of use, and like promoting like an American style healthcare system. And it was really creepy and weird and rehearsed. That was another thing this week, wasn't it? The NHS turning, and Jenrick's creepy, disgusting, what was it? The asylum seeker murals, the welcome, the Disney murals, ripping them down.
It's just so weird and mean-spirited, isn't it? It's like, what would it take to just like, even if you personally didn't want them up there, just fucking leave that. Like, it's not worth the bad press how this is going to be painted, to make, no pun intended, like how you're going to be painted and interpreted for having told people to paint over that shit. And the line that came out of it, where it was like, he says that we're being too welcoming. It's like, these are fucking children, man. Don't you have children? Like, it's fucking...
I don't have children, and there's no way in a million years that nothing could make, no amount of money could make it so I would make sure that a little kid was, made to feel like shit. No, nothing that would, because I've got like an ounce of morality. I don't know what the fuck was going through his head. It just smacks of that whole kind of like Theresa May era hostile environment spin.
Yeah.
It's that thing, isn't it? It's
But again, it goes back to this whole like, who is this for? Like, who do you think you're appealing? Are you expecting an uptick in the polls from doing this shit? Really?
no one wants this. And what I'm so sick of is an unelected. I know you don't elect a prime minister, but there's a national consensus to support a party with a figurehead, right? Sunak, Truss, neither of which was chosen democratically by the majority, like by the country. It didn't go to the polls. So, and we're having these toff fucks telling us what's important to us as people are losing their homes, as 14 million people at least are living in poverty, as school fucking roofs are falling in.
Yeah.
As NHS workers are having to work in like field hospital conditions, how fucking dare they tell us what the agenda is and what's important to us? Small boats, most people want just safe fucking routes, and there were safe routes until 2011. What changed then?
Yeah.
The Tories came in, didn't they? We should have had my darling golden brown texture light son, and we'd have been fine.
Yeah.
He's cheated. My Gordon was cheated.
He's such an unsung hero, isn't he? It's like, I
I loved him.
This has been said quite a lot recently in different outlets, different talking heads and so on. But it's similar to that period of Gordon Brown and Labour where people were just bored of the status quo, the existing government. Time for a change. Let these other guys have a go. And it's kind of like that now. It's like, doesn't matter what they do or what mean-spirited initiative they sign off on next, or how many boats they say they're going to turn away and send back to France or whatever. Doesn't matter. Like, all of it is moot because people are just fucking bored, and they can feel their purse strings getting tighter. Like, I haven't even fully remortgaged yet, and I'm already noticing that I'm £200 a month worse off. I'm like, oh fuck, I shouldn't be this broke this early in the month. What the fuck's going on? And I'm on an okay salary, so I don't know how the fuck people are like. It doesn't surprise me at all that on a question time audience, which, as you've mentioned, is normally a stacked deck in favour of the Tories, that even in that environment, that fluffy, cuddly environment for Tories, that still people in that audience are just like, nah, had enough, No,
yeah, they've had it. I mean, it's a little snapshot. It's obviously not a consensus. It's not a kind of broader consensus, but it's a snapshot. But I'm just so worried. Like, the thing I fear the most is a kind of Kinnock moment. Because I strongly agree with our very own mega mind, Josh Russell, when he says it's time to be progressive, it's time to be bold. It's time to give a vision. And I've said this directly to Labour MPs, that inspires the country, that's a bit of hope. Stop fucking like playing. I mean, to some extent, I know they've got no choice but to counter what the Tories are saying. They have to. They're the opposition. They will be asked to comment on this stuff. And they're not as free, I think, as people like the Greens or the Lib Dems to be a little bit more progressive or bold. They're bound by a stacked deck in terms of the press. And also, like, it's really tricky. So I'm just so hoping they get the ball over the line. I'll do all I can, to help them get the ball over the line. I'm sure everyone will, like, that's involved or listening and is involved in activism or politics will, if they don't, unless they want like 5 more years of full fash. But it's worrying. It's like it doesn't feel like a done deal by any stretch. And it's not that far off, is it? I mean, at the most, we're looking at, we're in the dying year and a bit, aren't we?
Yeah, they're going to have to announce it soon. Like, as in, this is when it's going to be, not like it's going to be in, next month. But
yeah,
I think
6 weeks. Yeah.
We'll have a clear idea, I think. My hunch is, like, aren't they normally kind of like May the 4th, May the 6th, somewhere around
They
there?
are, generally, if the Tories are optimistic, yes.
I see.
I mean, but generally, I think, because it depends, because Johnson, I'll never forget that night. Johnson came to power in like December. It was a really grim time. It was literally months before COVID, and it was a really like dark, wintry day. Right. I went to that polling station. I remember it really clearly, and it was Corbyn v Johnson, wasn't it? Celebrity she never wanted to see. And I'll never forget seeing the landslide come up, and I was like, that's it, we're fucked. And that was before That was before COVID, but that was in the winter. But I think I don't know why that was held in the winter.
I
And
can't
then
remember. Wasn't it something about like, did they reach the end of the parliamentary term or like fixed term or something? I honestly can't remember.
Oh, it could have. Yeah, I can't remember now. I can't remember the conditions.
Oh wait, hold on. We got some Q&As that have popped in.
Oh, have we? Oh,
Should we
hello.
do some? We'll do a quick fire Q&A because we're running very slightly short on time. So let's blast through these. So Bearded Wonder says, "What do you guys think of Labour's? I don't know this word. Oracy policy? Oracy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's Keir Starmer's policy about like kind of encouraging kids to be better orators, like
right.
speak more clearly and decisively and confidently. I'm all for it. I think it's great, especially in an age where a lot of stuff's done virtually, and it builds confidence, and it's a solid communication skill. So I think he's spot on with that, because I think that would help get us a little bit more towards a meritocracy, because it's only seen as the people that can, posh it. Speaking well is associated only with posh people, isn't it? It doesn't mean having a cut-class accent; it just means expressing yourself.
Yeah, and like just to, I guess, I haven't read his policy or seen any presentation around that, but just in terms of like comm skills, like that's been my fucking like ace card like my whole life. Like if I've gone for this job or that job, or like I'm always praised on how I communicate, like being a good communicator. It's such a fucking valuable skill to have, that if there's
unless you pay for Glastonbury aid.
yeah. Unless I'm fucking 2 days into some sort of horrid hangover come down fest. I mean that festival really is. It's so again.
I saw it. Aid and I went through some shit a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Like I was saying to Tan, I was like, I'm really sorry. Like I feel like I was shit company. I feel like I left my personality at home, but yeah.
I saved his lot. Like he helped me out though. Aid did, man. And a few times I, put a hat over his face to stop the sun from burning him as he passed out outside the tent.
Yeah,
literally just sprawled out. Saved your phone from melting.
Yeah, oh yes, you did. Thank you.
It was so close, man. So close. I could. It hurt to touch it.
Yeah,
it was so hot.
I tried to turn it on afterwards, and it was just like, no,
fuck off.
Like, leave me alone. I'm hot.
Anyway, this is planned into us being like those twats that are still talking about the set at Glastonbury like 2 weeks later.
Glastonbury, a month after it's happened. Did I tell you guys about Anyway, let's do another question. So what do you think about Sajid Javid's comments about MPs' pay? So I'm going to take this one super quick and then I'll hand it over to you. I think there is actually room for conversation on this. And I know it's not going to be a popular thing if you just go out to people in the street and go, do you think MPs should have 100% pay rise? Obviously, everyone's going to say no. However, the context around it, it's like if they weren't so desperate to take money from donors and to have billionaires come in and donate, 30 grand, which actually to buy democracy is not that much money, 30 grand to run their office. Oh yeah, I'll take that check off you. Now, what is it that you want in exchange for that? If they couldn't be bought so easily, I think democracy would be in a better position. What do you think?
They get given money to run their office. That's what a bulk of their expenses are. I think that their pay should be, if anything, like massively reduced, and I think they shouldn't be allowed to take second jobs. And then we'll see who's really there to fucking serve people. So yeah, I think that it should be, you should take away the ability for them to lobby for dodgy donors for their vested interests and not our best interests, and you should halve their pay at least, so they're on a national average for at least their first few terms, so you can see, prove your fucking worth as a public servant. And then if you do well like anyone else does, fair enough, you can work your way up. If you get to be a minister, you get a bit more. And again, I think the same should apply to the PM's job. I think their expenses should be purely work focused. There should be no subsidized bars. How can it be that they can, in strangers, like order really fancy foods and drinks and such for like a pittance, whilst nurses are having to spend £6 on a sandwich in a hospital? So yeah, that's my view on it, and it's pretty authoritarian. It's like, pay them a shitload less, and then we'll see who's really there to do a decent job.
Is there not do you sort of recognise, accept, or whatever, like the argument that if you were Supertanskiii, head of Colchester Council, and you're doing a great job, you've
Thanks
managed
for doxing me, man.
you're doing a great job, and you've whipped that council into shape. Everything's going great. All the public services, everyone's celebrating you, and you're on because like the head of the council is like, I don't know, 100 grand, 110 grand a year. Then someone goes, you should fucking be an MP because you're really good at this. You've got the relationships. You'd represent the constituency really well. You be an MP, and then you go, yeah, how much does it pay? You're on 110, and you got a mortgage. You got family, maybe. It's a pay cut down to 40k. Like, we would then lose you as a candidate, and you'd be great at that. So is it not? Is there not an argument there? No.
No, I don't. No, I still stand by what I say, and also don't think people that run councils should be paid so much either. And the same applies to people that are kind of cashing in from like universities. And I think it's a massive racket, Aid. And you know, this is where my fucking red flag comes out now. Of you know, good in the good sense, in the socialist sense, not in the you know, I'm a massive red flag. But I think that, yeah, and also I think that the way that we can get the change that we need in terms of funding public services so everyone's looked after is by taxing the richest until they fucking scream, personally. So yeah, that's my party political broadcast. I see where you're coming from, but I'm not with you on it.
Yeah.
I'm not with you on it. But I do get your argument, and I don't think it's invalid.
I think it's like, from my perspective, I just think, I mean, really where I'm coming from is like understanding and begrudgingly accepting that life is incredibly expensive. So if you had a family house in this area and your mortgage was this amount, plus you needed to pay for childcare, plus food is this much, and petrol and all the rest of it, then you would, like, if you were on a high earner salary, we would lose you as a candidate because there's no way that you could afford to take that pay cut by like 50%, 40%.
Well, again, that comes back to the argument where I think that like people that run councils, etc., are cashing in at the very head, are cashing in loads. Like, people that would work as a councillor for Labour locally or whatever, like they're on barely any money. They're on nothing. They're on pittance for what they do. A lot of it's voluntary work. You know, opposition or not, councillors are not paid much. In terms of working for the council, the people that are paid the most there are the people right at the very top that you never see, that are just taking the paycheck, that don't really do anything. So again, I don't nah.
Well, the other thing is, like, and I suppose like the foundational problem here is how expensive life is. Like, childcare shouldn't be that expensive. A house shouldn't be that expensive. If it like if these things were reduced to a manageable level, then you wouldn't need to pay this person that much to attract them into this role.
And the reason it is expensive is because, well, it's just designed that way. I mean, that was another thing that came out about Rishi Sunak, wasn't it? About his wife. If you signed up with one of the 6 named childcare agencies on the government website, you would get a double bonus. Turned out one of those is run by Johnson's wife. Wife, Ash Carter Murphy. So it's they're not even trying to hide, the corruption anymore.
Do you know what's gross about that? It's like whenever he gets hauled over the coals or something like that, he's like, it was about 6 months ago, somebody was lambasting her for something or other, and he just goes like, I'm a politician, I'm fair game, but you leave my wife alone. Like, it's like everyone's being misogynistic for like appraising his wife's tax status when he was the fucking chancellor and now he's the prime minister. Just like, can we just have an honest conversation about what you and your wife are and the rules and regulations and expectations of the public that you are betraying? Can we just have that conversation without this becoming some weird misrepresentation? Oh, you leave my wife alone.
It was hello, mate. Have you ever heard of Sherry Blair? Like, it's like, get a fucking grip. You are in a position of ultimate responsibility for the country.
Yeah.
Your wife is a non-dom who is richer than royalty. You've got 4 fucking houses and a swimming pool. It's like fucking old matey and his horses. Was it what one was? I can't remember which Tory MP.
Oh, Nadeem Zahawi.
Love twat. Yeah, he was using taxpayers' money to heat his horse's stables.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the level of country you get to when you give them unlimited funds, public funds, to do what the fuck they want with. They will take the piss. They're public schoolboys. They don't understand sharing. They're posh, you know.
Yeah.
It's just, they're rich. They don't understand, and they'll never understand what it's like to live like us, ever. So no, fuck off. If you want to be there, public schoolboy, then you earn what, you know, the national average is to do that at first. Prove your fucking worth, and then if you don't fuck it up, we'll give you a pay rise. I think that's fair. And also tax the really rich people, because we could make so much money out of taxing big corporations like energy companies, and the richest people in this country, they don't, because they're their mates. So
yeah,
fucking had it with a lot of them. Honestly, just fucking chuck them in the Thames, all of them.
Fuck them all to Jupiter.
Make me finger your dad.
And on that note, I just want to say quick thanks to. I just want to say a quick thanks to all of my Patreon backers. Once again, a doff of the cap to each of you for continuing your support of the show. Big shouts to Bowman, Christy, David V, Mojo
Bowman.
Sabian. Bowman, yeah. What's up, Bo?
We met you, Bo.
Peter Del Monte, who was in the chat earlier. Pingu.
Peter Del Monte.
Stuart.
That's a brilliant name.
Don't laugh at my Patreons.
I'm not laughing. I'm not. I didn't mean that in a bad way.
Oh, good. Okay. They're my colts, man. I'll protect these guys till I die.
I mean, that's a brilliant name.
Yeah.
Like,
Peter Del Monte. Yeah, it's pretty good. Should we find out if it's Peter? If you're still on the live chat, tell us if it's your real name, because that's pretty cool.
Tell me if you say yes.
Peter Del Monte. Sorry, where was I? Right. So Pingu, Stuart, T-Rex, Aaron, Alex, Jeff, Ned, Sarah, and Silent. Thank you so much for your continued support, guys. To the rest of you, thank you so much for listening. Go and follow Supertanskiii if you're not already. I'm sure you are. I'm doing a live show, a live version of this podcast with a bit of stand-up, maybe even a bit of rap music. I haven't decided on that yet. That's coming up on the 28th of September in London.
I'll be there.
Yeah, Tan's going to be there. John Left of the Countryside, Otto English. My friend Ashley Hayden's going to be there doing a set. It's going to be a good time, man. It's at the Book Club in Shoreditch, 28th of September. Make sure you get yourself a ticket. I'll put a link in the description of this episode.
I have my ticket. I endorse this event.
Boom. It's got the Tan seal of approval. I was trying to think of a way I could tie this into a sort of Glastonbury joke there of shows and stuff. Anyway, me and Tan are also doing a live show. Me, Tan, and Danny fucking Price. That's coming up on the 10th of November, Friday the 10th of November. So make sure you grab a ticket to that. Also, you can get tickets for any of these things at funk-27.co.uk/shows. That's it from me. Thank you to all of you who jumped on the live stream. I'll be back on Wednesday for the solo one. And until next time, keep it strictly booge, strictly binfluencer. We're out this motherfucker.
Keep it booge.